Words fall silent in the face of reality, on wonder, love, and fear. A little over a week ago, I had a medical emergency that didn't feel unfamiliar. If you've ever had those my life flashed before my eyes situation, you know that in an instant, nothing matters more than that current situation. The only time any other things pop up is where there's that panic when one starts to imagine what would happen if all goes wrong. In this particular situation, what was obvious to me was the unpredictability of all that happens. 2 hours before this emergency, I was totally fine, kicking as usual, had a number of meetings, discussions, and even had my regular 30-minute silent seat on the 23rd floor. Minutes later, my chest was heavy, my cognitive ability was totally whack. The difference between my reactions to this now and a different time would have been that I was totally aware of what was happening as it was happening, almost like it wasn't happening to me. I watched as panic set in, and yet something else wasn't panicked. The day after, I remember writing or wanting to write about this experience and how even this was for contemplative practice. However, the following days, as the mental activity started to recede and my cognition picked up, you can read that as analytic mind. I was dazed by how nothing, absolutely nothing, can be said about anything. I mean, beyond the noise of saying something. A lot of garbled words, I know, but here's the thing. What is said about anything is not the thing itself. It's why every conversation about the nature of God, of reality, of the universe could never, ever be close. And in some ways, they are meaningless apart from the fun of talking about it. So, for instance, this Substack. The goal of these writings or the activity of writing itself, the joy of experiencing feedback, the joy of creating inquiry methods, the joy of experiencing even no feedback. And that, all of that is what this blessing is. So, bringing the leaked fragrance of a contemplative practice to the everyday life, it becomes obvious that there's nothing to explain, nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and nothing even to grasp. Yet daily life rarely feels this simple. We're constantly swept into narratives, attachments, and fears that shape how we move through the world. And it's not that anything is wrong with these. In fact, that's the whole point. That's how things are. The impersonal habits of mind create narratives, attachments, and fear. The deeper attention melts into them, the more disconnected we become from the clarity already available in every single moment. So, in my reflections, I had 5 things I wanted to share from the sheer joy of contemplation. The first reminds us that stepping out of narratives opens us to wonder. The second shows how true love appears when the illusion of separation dissolves. The third reveals wisdom as the fruit of surrender, not control. The fourth reframes fear as a guardian of illusions, dissolving when examined closely. The fifth turns to the Tao, showing how grace is found in alignment rather than resistance. And none of these things need to be known, not from a mental perspective. We just need to observe, pulling out of our deeply embedded narratives. Isn't it so darn obvious that life feels heavy when we live inside our stories? Our narratives shape how we see ourselves, others, and the world around us. They give us the roles we play, the motives we carry, and the meanings we associate with them. But the more deeply we embed ourselves into them, the more we confuse the stories with reality itself. And if you don't see or know the difference, then you are deeply embedded in narratives of your life. When we pull back from the storyline, even for a moment, we notice a shift. We notice a shift. You notice a shift. It's like the frequency of experience changes. What once felt like an endless loop of worries, judgment, and rehearsed dialogues now opens into something lighter. In that space, emotional responses are no longer trapped in the grooves of old patterns. Instead, they resonate with wonder. It's as if our feelings are less about defending itself and more about participating in the richness of being alive. And this doesn't for a second mean we abandon narratives entirely. Stories are useful. They help us navigate, remember, and connect, but they are not the whole of reality. They are embedded in reality. They are maps and not the territory. When we mistake the map for the terrain, life feels narrow. And that's what happens when I suffer. So when we step back, life expands. Interactions are made of love. Most of us move through the world protecting a boundary between me and you. And that line feels natural, but it is also the root of much misunderstanding. Oh, you should see all the arguments I have with my friend Kim Presh. When we believe we are separate, every interaction is subtly distorted by defense, comparison, or need. Love begins where separation ends. And I'm not referring to the sentimental kind of love, which quite truly isn't love, but a symbol of love. I'm referring to the recognition that there's no true distance between us. What I call me and what I call you are both expressions of the same field of awareness. If you see this, you know that interactions take a different type of shift. We no longer reach for validation or cling to approval. We simply meet the other as ourselves. Conversations lose they lose their edges, and presence replaces performance. And so sometimes in conversations, I'm accused of being numb when in fact I'm enjoying one singular fact that I can have conversations, and that itself is a mystery. This is why understanding our non separateness matters. Without it, love is conditional, bound to roles and expectations. With it, love is simply there, like gravity holding everything together. The wisdom to move in the world hides in surrender. We often equate wisdom with control. Our plans, strategies, and cleverness become the tools in which we lean on to navigate uncertainty. If you truly pay attention, you see that true wisdom doesn't come from tightening our grip. It's the exact darn opposite. It's from loosening it. It's like so freaking mind blowing to recognize this. And when we do, we sometimes equate surrender with passivity. And it's not. It's not giving up. It's the act of stepping aside so that life itself can move through us. When we stop trying to force outcomes, we notice that the world already carries its own intelligence. The river knows how to flow. Stop trying to flow the river. The tree knows how to grow. The breath knows how to come and go without your freaking permission. So, in surrender, decision making shifts from how we normally engage. Instead of calculating every angle, we listen for the natural rhythm of things. We begin to sense timing, when to act, when to wait, when to stop. That sensitivity is what wisdom truly is. It's such a paradox. You see, the harder we try to be wise, the less wisdom we touch. When we let go, clarity arrives quietly, like water finding its level. Fear only shows up where there's a nest of imaginary effects to protect. Birds, alligators, or snakes rarely attack humans, but go near their nest and you'd see what happens. Fear of loss becomes the energy they use to attack. You see, fear feels solid. It grips the body, quickens the breath, and narrows attention. But if you look closely from the human lens, fear almost always points to something imagined: a possible rejection, a future loss, a version of yourself you think must be defended. At its root, Fear is a guardian of illusions. It builds a nest out of imagined outcomes, then perches there as if protecting something precious. But when you examine the nest, you see there's nothing inside, only thoughts of what might happen, what could happen, what should not fall apart. Now, hold on. This doesn't mean fear is an enemy. Fear is a signal. It shows you where you're entangled with illusion, where you've mistaken the story for reality. In that sense, fear is a teacher. Oh, it's my beautiful teacher. It points me back to the present where nothing imagined can hold. In fact, I realize the one thing that helps me nick fear in the butt or the bud much quicker than my previous strategies is this. When fear arises, I ask, what is being protected? I notice if the thing at the center of is a story, an identity, or an outcome that doesn't exist right now. Then I gently stay with the sensation in the body rather than the narratives in the mind. As the imagined layers fall away, fear loses its footing. What remains is a space, awareness, and the quiet truth that there is nothing to defend. The ability to gracefully slide through the density of living is hidden in the way of Tao. With the density of life, oh gosh, it feels even more dense in these times. Responsibilities, pressures, and expectations stack on top of one another. And moving forward feels like trudging through thick mud. We try to fight our way through with effort, but the weird thing is, effort only thickens the weight. The Tao offers another way. Instead of struggling against density, it invites us to flow with it. The way is not about resistance, it is instead an invitation to alignment. When we move with the current of things rather than against it, we find a surprising ease. That sliding through is, in fact, presence. It's a trust in what cannot be seen. Call it the Tao. It's a trust in what energizes all things. Call it God. It's a trust in that which could never die, was never born, always was. Call it you. In our lives of relativity, when we meet with the density, but don't let it harden around us, we remain supple, bend, we shift, and we flow. Almost like what John 3:8 says when Jesus said, the wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. But what does this look like in practice? Acting when conditions are ripe, waiting when they are not, dropping the need to push every moment into one's design, and trusting the intelligence of life as much as our own intentions. Grace comes not from skill alone, but from attunement. The Tao shows that the world is not an obstacle course to conquer, but it's a river to join. When we move this way, even in the thick of difficulty, living feels tighter, or lighter rather, not tighter, lighter. None of these 5 points matter. What matters is seeing the truth or lies about what they posit. Hey, join me in being bewildered by this uncertain life of sickness, of health, of confusion, of clarity, of joy, and of pain. Join me in wading through it all.